glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin?
Dictator. Well, what exactly is a dictator? Now, according to Wikipedia, a dictator is a political leader who possesses absolute power, but abuses it for personal gains. What the f? Are you me? Isn't there just all leaders nowadays? Well, whatever. In simpler terms, a dictator is every villain we see in anime, whether the bloodshed or genocide is in a smaller scale or a bigger scale. We call that a dictator. In this video, we will rank these dictators by their rankings, by their killing methods in our list. So without further ado, let's begin. Madagascar. You know Madagascar? It is fun to live there. I'm sure they were peaceful from the beginning. Nope. Meet Queen Ranavalona I, the personification of evil itself, the mother of all the Karens, the lady version of Satan, the deadliest woman in the history of mankind, the Bloody Mary of Madagascar. The atrocities of her, Queen Ranavalona, all began after she killed her husband, the king of Madagascar, Madame I, by slow poisoning him. She finally took the throne, but to make sure no one's ever going to take that, she killed all the royal blood. She starved the woman of the royal blood and killed the royal man. Ranavalona believed in old ways. She forced people who she was suspicious of to undergo a trial by ordeal to prove their innocence, where they had to eat a highly toxic seed. Well, the result of eating that seed was death. She forced hard labor, murdered Christians, tortured civilians, did slavery. Well, not new. She killed half of the country's population, 2.5 million out of 5 million. Now, where does she ranks up in our tier list? Well, her killing methods were mostly by hard labor and starvation, so I'm putting her at A tier in our tier list. Well, we have ranked her, now let's talk about a real piece of shit. Yeah, he is a real piece of shit, and he is Pol Pot. He was a teacher, and somehow he became the ruler of Cambodia. After he gained control over the whole of Cambodia, he began to eradicate all religion, all education, all personal money, and family. Just hours after he took over, millions of people were forced to abandon the city and march to the labor camps. While marching, thousands of people died in the way. Wives, children, and husbands all were separated. Slaves were forced to work to death. They were given last to no food. Children were starved to death. Roughly 1 million people died as a result of starvation and forced labor. Though this is only the half of the story, the most horrific part under Pol Pot came to known as the Killing Fields, or as 21, or Security Prison 21. Thousands of ethnic minorities, intellectuals, professionals, and city residents were captured and kept as prisoners in As 21. They were tortured, forced to eat human waste, and were given electric shock, were regularly beaten, were suffocated by plastic bags, or hung like this. They were executed on the prison yard, often bashed to death by a hammer or cut open by an axe to save bullets. When the yard was full of dead bodies, they took them to the killing fields, where they executed each one of them. Children and infants were bashed against trees and were thrown into the holes. Pol Pot alone killed about 2.5 million people out of 7 million population. Every Cambodian family was scarred for life by this guy, but yet he was not punished. Well, after looking at the atrocities of this guy, where does he ends up in our tier list? Well, no worries. I will specially rank him up in this special tier list just made for him. The Satan backshots, or the backshot from Satan tier. Also, I take back the title of Queen Ranavalona as the personification of evil itself. It goes to this guy, with extra spice to the title. The title will be the throatification of evil itself, Pol Pot. You see this guy? Yeah, that's Mao Zedong, the guy who killed millions of people. I mean, this is the guy that killed more than any dictator. And they are respecting him. What a joke. Well, whatever, that's not really my problem, so let's get to his real statistics. After getting into the power, Mao greatly improved healthcare, education and women's rights. Wow, quite a wholesome fella. Until he'd done the social revolution in China. He launched an impossible brutal campaign known as Great Leap Forward to outproduce England in industrial revolution and to achieve communist utopia before Soviet, through sheer will and physical labor, though not of himself, rather of poor people. All the grain produced from poor people's hard work they were supplied to the cities with not enough food for themselves. Millions of farmers now faced starvation. Famine was not all across China. Mao's Great Leap Forward alone costed 45 million deaths just from starvation. Take a look at this statistic only from Mao Zedong's reign. In total, he took the life of 62 million people, ranking in our tier list at S tier. Now don't ask why I put him here, not there. It's because he was not as brutal as Pol Pot. Pol Pot was the worst human being in the history of mankind, though Mao Zedong was not less. But his killing methods were starvation. But Pol Pot, yeah, he's worse. Let's not talk about it. Yeah, I'm not going to tell the backstory or anything about this famous guy. Let's just get into his statistics right away. But if you want to know more about his story a little more, then yeah, check out my previous video. Now let's look at his statistics. He's alone murdered about 20 million people, and let me tell you, he did all of that in 12 years. He murdered 20 million people in just 12 years. That's just outrageous. He killed 6 million Jews in just 5 years. Some were murdered at killing centers, while some were murdered in mass shootings and operations and in labor camps, ghettos, and in other acts of violence. But in total, Eisenhower found that he killed about 30 million people until his suicide. I can't even imagine what could have been if he did not kill himself, and had he won. Brother, shit would have been cooked. Well, in conclusion, I'm putting Hitler at S tier. Yeah, he's top. Well, yeah, Hitler was worse. But you know what? Now you gotta hold on to something, because the guys that are coming are the worst. And the guys are Emperor Hirohito and Hideki Tojo. And you know it, the guys are from Japan. What Imperial Japan actually did in the World War II is really worst, is horrific. But the worst, the US tried to hide it, and they did not even give the main causes of the massacres, them, any punishments. Under Emperor Hirohito's control and command, they broke into China's capital and murdered Chinese civilians. They held public beheading contests to see who kills the fastest. They raped women in front of their families. They did not even care about the ages of them. In one instance, over 20 men raped a 9-year-old in 24 hours, and some women had to serve 40 men in 24 hours. They killed infants and pregnant women. That's not all. They had a secret facility called Unit 731, where Japanese scientists did horrific experiments on humans, mostly Chinese. They froze people's hands and struck them with cane. The sound it made was like a plank of wood. They shattered frozen hands with hammer. They cut open people's stomach without any anesthesia, then had their organs removed one by one, just to find how long does it take for the body to survive. They studied flamethrowers by using them on both covered and exposed skin. They set up gas chambers to study the effect of nerve gases and blister agents on prisoners. The prisoners were exposed to prolonged X-ray exposure. They locked up the prisoners and starved them to see how long can they survive without food or water. Female prisoners were raped so they could do experiments on them. They were infected with diseases, then were cut open, and the effects on the fetus were studied. They did so many horrific things, all under Emperor Hirohito and Prime Minister Hideki Tojo. They killed about 30 million people. These guys are horrific, man. Well, I told you so. These motherfuckers are the worst. Worse than that Pol Pot. I'm making a new tier for this motherfuckers. And you choose the name.